Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My charter today is hopefully to illustrate for you how it's actually possible to have other users on a mission-critical network, other users than public safety, and show how it's possible to have commercial users on that network as well. As you already said during the introduction, my name is not able to be pronounced in English, so just call me Bo. And the company that I'm heading up is called Dansk Beredskabskommunikation. That's also impossible to say in English, so we call it DBK. The radio network that we have in Denmark we call SINA, and I'll explain you in a minute what that means. But basically it is a privately owned and privately operated network for public safety. The operator company, as I said, we are a subsidiary of Motorola Inc., or Motorola Solutions Inc., sorry. They actually started with a much smaller percentage of the ownership, but over time our other partner, which is an external company, they have been diluted, so to speak, and that is because of the financing that we have gone through. We actually founded this company back in 2001, so we have existed for more than 11 years now. We actually founded the company prior to establishing the network. It was a company that was founded with the sole purpose of running and building a nationwide network based on TETRA, and it was predominantly a network to be used for public safety purposes. So as part of that, we actually acquired not only an operator license to actually form an operator company, we also acquired a license for the frequencies back in 2001, and we operate in the 380 to 400 megahertz. So what is SINA actually? Well, it's Danish, and I'll translate it for you. It actually means the security network. And the idea here was that it was going to be predominantly for public safety customers, and it was going to be their core means of communication and a completely secure network. The way we look at it in Denmark is that we actually look at three different things. One being the TETRA infrastructure, the radio communication infrastructure. The second part is control rooms. Part of our supply is actually to supply also control room interfaces, but basically all of their users can determine themselves what they want as a control room solution. The third element is obviously the radios itself, mobiles and portables. And here we had an option in our contract to also supply that through the SINA contract. And it was actually a requirement from the Danish government that it should be a multiple vendor scenario. So we actually offer radios from 3 different manufacturers. The way we deal with the public safety customers, that is that we deal directly with the national police, and the national police has actually formed a governing body called the SINA agency, and that means that we effectively have one-stop shopping no matter what the public safety users are. One point of contact, one organization to deal with. So where are we today with the network in Denmark? The network is fully deployed. We actually completed the network rollout in 2010, so it took us a little under 3 years. It is a major success story because it was completed on time and it was completed within budget. We have obviously, surprise, deployed a Motorola infrastructure. and it has approximately 500 base stations. It has started its life as a multiple agency network, so right from day one it was determined that this should not only be a police system, should actually be a system for fire, ambulance, and other public safety users as well. And since we are a commercial company, we are also allowed to have commercial customers on the network. And today we have all of the public safety users on the network, and we also have a fair amount of public transportation, and we have some other commercial customers. I'm not going to talk about all of them today, but I will later on show you a couple of examples. Today we have just over 21,000 users on the network, and rough and tough 20% of those are non-public safety users, or you would call them commercial customers. In terms of geographical coverage, and that is how we measure the standards in Denmark for the mission critical network. I know that the GSM operators, they also talk about having 99.5% coverage, but in their mind they cover the population and not necessarily the geography. Here it is a matter of generating the coverage throughout the country, and it's 43,000 square kilometers. There's also some defined areas in terms of the coverage itself. Can you use a portable radio indoor, or can you use a portable radio outdoor? And the minimum requirement that we have throughout the country is that we must have mobile coverage. There's also some requirements for some of the confined areas. We do have several bridges and tunnels. And for the first time in Denmark ever with a public safety network, we've had air-ground air coverage. So we offer a coverage that can actually outcompete the GSM operators. So what is our model for public safety? It's very simple. We should build, we should own, and we should operate a network. It is one network which is common for all of the users. And basically the Danish government has decided that it must be used by all of their public safety users. So the way the model works is that we actually don't get paid for the number of users. We actually get paid for providing a service with a guaranteed coverage and capacity, and we get paid for meeting a service level agreement with the government, regardless of what the number of users are. So that's the model for public safety. If we look at the similar model for commercial customers, some customers in Denmark actually find it beneficial to go on to a network like this instead of owning or establishing their own network. So if they don't want their own network, we can offer them access to the SINA network, but we do that under specific terms and conditions on a case-by-case with each and every customer. And again, it is subject to an approval from the Danish government. So we can put the users or the prospects forward, but at the end of the day, it has to be finally approved. And then obviously we can also come into a situation where we need to offer gain share with the central government. So what are some of the implications of integrating commercial customers onto a network like this? Well, it's pretty obvious that if you share the resources and if you share the cost, then hopefully it should be cheaper for each user. So it's actually a matter of creating a win-win situation for both the operator and the user agencies. In the old days, as I said to begin with, these systems were designed only to accommodate police. But now, and with this particular network, we have actually designed it and implemented right from the start that we could have everybody on the network, and who knows what the future brings. We've also seen that despite being commercial customers or non-public safety customers, a lot of the basic requirements are actually the same. And with a little bit of tweaking, we can tailor-make some solutions for these customers. We should also remember that CapEx and OpEx are, for a lot of users, two different budgets. And sometimes it is a lot easier for people if they avoid the big upfront investment. And driving the cost reductions and identifying new areas of service also has to be a win-win situation. So how do we actually manage the interaction between the commercial and the public safety customers, or some would say, how do we actually prevent the interaction? And it's very simple, because we have divided the network into virtual private networks, so each and every user can actually have their own VPN. And the way we have done it is that we have put the commercial customers at the bottom here. Then we have the police and special police and what have you, fire ambulance. And then we obviously try to protect how that's organized. So commercial customers mainly operate in clear mode. The other customers, the public safety, they have the encrypted mode, and we're using TEA2. To safeguard the police even more, we have put a group cipher key on all police talk groups, and the special police, the special services, they have end-to-end encryption on top of that. If they want to talk across the agencies, then they go to VPN number 9. And that's where we can actually establish the cross-agency group communication, if need be, and that would mainly be for major events. So obviously we also have a possibility to give the commercial customer the lowest priority if we want to. We obviously have the public safety users with the highest priority in the system, or high priority, and the VPN 9 has higher priority, and obviously the highest priority you can get it in the system is actually the emergency calls. So let me share with you two examples of two commercial customers that we have successfully put onto this network. One is DSB, Danish State Rail. It's the S-trains, the commuter trains for Greater Copenhagen area, and the other one is actually a bus company which is operating the Copenhagen bus service. First of all, Danish State Railway is an independent company, and the one I'm going to focus on today is the one called DSB S-Tog AS. It's actually S-trains. It's the trains you see on the right-hand side. Very substantial organization. They actually transport more, the S-train operation transport more than 100 million people. And you have to put that into perspective. Denmark has a population of 5.4 million people, and Copenhagen itself has a population of 1.1 million. So this is actually a large number of people to look after. In terms of the turnover, rough and tough, 2.5 billion kroner, that's $500 million US. And S-Trains itself has 1,100 employees. So they decided to go for a new solution. If you look on the right-hand side, I know it's a busy chart and some of the words are in Danish, but I think the point here is that these guys were actually not satisfied with what they had. It was difficult for them to communicate across the agencies and the functions that they have within their own organization. And they also had three very old different systems in place. So they actually wanted a solution like this. And this is a model that we all recognize from public safety with central command. It enables them to receive both voice and data. And they basically have the same installation, whether it's boats or if it is trains or if it is buses. And same goes for the traffic controllers. They obviously have handheld radios. So, in conclusion, let me summarize. Is it possible to have commercial customers integrated to a public safety network and coexist with police, fire, and ambulance? In our mind, the answer is yes, can be done. It's not the technology being the limiting factor. The TETRA network can handle it. Most of the user requirements can be fulfilled. When you do it, or if you decide to go this way like we did in Denmark, it is important to find the right model and to make it a win-win. Basically, when you talk about a public safety network, it means high capacity and very good coverage. But the fact is also, in networks of that nature, you actually have a lot of spare capacity, and the network to a large extent is actually not being utilized fully in 98% of the time. Both public safety and commercial users might have to change their operational procedures. Don't go with the old procedures that you had in the old system. You actually need to tailor your procedures so it fits your solution as well. And one thing is for sure, that a modern public safety system will certainly do a lot more than what the old system did. Just a couple of things here. If you want more information about what's happening in Denmark, we, the operator company, have our own homepage. You can see it here, and that's our address. You can also send emails. And the SENA agency, acting on behalf of the central government and the national police, they also have a homepage and an email address, and they are pretty responsive. So feel free to contact them if you want to know more about the SENA network itself. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm prepared to take questions.
Thank you, Bo. A question there, please. Microphone's just coming.
Thank you, Bo, for a very, very informative and nice presentation, which really fulfills the original dream of TETRA as a shared network. You were saying a little about very much idle capacity on the public safety and emergency side to make sure it works. Can you say anything about the actual traffic you see in the network from the commercial users contra the public safety and emergency users?
Yeah, I would say that obviously the public safety users, they generate the most traffic when it comes to voice, and in particular group calls. If you take the bus company, that is probably one of our biggest users when it comes to data. And they use a lot of data for their information because they correspond with their own IT applications. The train operation, they do a lot of lookup into databases and what have you, so they use data as well. But the majority of the traffic is group calls, and the majority of the traffic is public safety, and the majority of the traffic on the network is actually the capital of Denmark, Copenhagen. I don't have the specific numbers with me, but I hope that gives you an idea.
Another question there.
I am Juha Knuttila from Laurea Applied Sciences University, Finland. Do you have companies like Securitas or G4S or ISS, so security card companies, as your customers? Because they are usually the first responders in shopping centers and in places like that, because police is always late.
We do have some, but it's very limited. But some of the normal public safety tasks, like fire brigades or like ambulance services, they in Denmark have been outsourced to private companies, and a large operation like Falck is running fire brigades and ambulance services for the Danish municipalities and counties. So obviously we do have some companies on there, but specific security companies, it's very limited.